Hey, here's a question for you. If you write a bestseller, do you have to go out and promote your own book? And here's your answer. Yes, you do. Oh, but wait. What if you're afraid? What if you're terrified of standing in front of a group of people, talking with them? Get over it. Can you? Well, let's talk to someone today who will tell us exactly what to do if you are terrified about meeting the public and public speaking. My name is Dacquino, and our next guest is the wonderful Yanna Guo.
Hi, Vinny. How are you?
A pleasure. Nice to talk with you. I'm so glad you're here. Your story is a good one. When you even thought of being out in the public, it scared you to death.
Oh, yes, definitely.
But you found an answer.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit today about how you turned the tables.
Well, I'm an author, and I know as part of the promotion process, I would have to do a lot of public speaking. And in college, I was terrified of public speaking. When I would give a presentation, I was so inarticulate. I would stutter and stammer. When I looked at the audience, people were actually turning their heads like this. And that was a horrible feeling. So I joined Toastmasters in April of 2014, and it really has made such a difference.
So now you said Toastmasters. Now what exactly is Toastmasters?
Toastmasters is an international organization dedicated to improving public speaking and leadership skills.
So it's a group of people who meet regularly to try to learn how to speak publicly.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's a wonderful club, and it's a place where mistakes are allowed to be made. When I gave my first, second, third, fourth speeches, I used note cards because I was not comfortable speaking without note cards. So it's a gradual process.
So it's a slow process to get you more and more acclimated to talking with people. So people come to these meetings and you actually get up at a podium and talk to these people?
Yes, we have 10 speeches in our Competent Communicator Manual. For each speech, there's a different task, and it really has helped me a lot because the fifth speech is focused on body language, and that has been something that I've always needed to work on. So for each speech, there's a different task, and it really has helped me improve a lot. So.
Yeah, I've had a couple of experiences. One is I was a drama director for a middle school for years, and I had to get all of these kids. Now, people don't realize that kids is a big title for individuals. Once these kids are broken up into actors, and these kids have to get up on stage and say something, some kids can do it without a problem. Other kids are actually terrified.
Yes, that was me. I was one of the actually terrified kids. I
Yeah.
was so terrified of public speaking.
I had kids who said, Mr. Dacquino, can I do the curtains? Can I?
That would have been me.
Yeah. Well, I did have kids who were our major productions. We do have to have backstage people. But I also had wonderful examples. One that stands out for me is a young boy who just would not go on stage. His mother came to me and said, can you just get him on? I don't care if you make him a tree. Just get him out on the stage. He's so afraid. Do you know that young man played the lead role in his senior year in the drama production?
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
He came a long, long way.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely relate to that because in college I was such a nervous public speaker and people would just not pay attention to me at all. And now that I'm part of Toastmasters, when I look at the audience and people are actually nodding their heads and smiling, so it's a much better feeling than having them turn away like this.
Yeah, and another big part of being an author is being a people watcher. You have to really get out and mingle. Remember, a writer has to be on both sides of every kiss, both sides of every argument. He has to understand what makes people think
Definitely.
and act.
Definitely.
So if you're going to be out there and be gregarious, be socializing, you have to have the courage to do that.
Oh yes, that's because public speaking, it's the number one most common fear. 75% of a population is terrified of public speaking. I actually did some research, and it says that Warren Buffett dropped out of a public speaking course because he was so nervous. And it gives me great encouragement knowing that someone, a billionaire like Warren Buffett, is terrified of public speaking. So it makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah. I don't know how much you believe in astrology, but I am a Leo. I was born a Leo. I live as a Leo, which means I do better in the lights than I do one-to-one.
You seem very charismatic.
Yeah,
Very charismatic.
when I was 12 years old, maybe 11, I stood on the fire truck in the middle of the playground with the entire student body, and I gave a speech on fire prevention.
Wow, that's amazing.
When I stood on that truck, I was like, this is where I belong.
Is that what you like about public speaking, just being out there and expressing yourself? And
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I feed on the crowd. The more
amazing.
people out there, the more confident I feel.
That's amazing.
And it's weird. I didn't know it was weird. It took years to realize that not everybody is like that.
And it really plays out because now you're doing a show, and it's awesome, and it's going to be your 100th show for soon.
Yeah.
And so
When I get up in front of an audience, depending on who the audience is, I adjust to them. I don't ask them to adjust to me. So if I'm speaking to senior citizens, I talk with them about things that I know are important to them. If I'm speaking to the DAR for Sybil Ludington, I speak with them about things that interest them.
I agree 100% with that. I feel like it's more helpful to be natural when you're speaking, because when you make it sound like a speech, I've done it in the past too, where I kind of recited, it didn't seem as natural. So for my 9th speech, I talked about a fun topic about why you should watch horror movies. It's something that I'm very passionate about. It was a fun, silly topic, and I made it sound very natural, and people were smiling and nodding their heads. So you're right, it does make it better to speak from the heart.
When I was in 8th grade, no, I had, in 6th grade, they realized that I was a public speaker. So I would always get picked to do the little speeches and to run little panels. Well, in 8th grade, for my graduation, they picked me to give the student address, but they handed me a speech. And I had to read the speech. It was then that I realized that's not the kind of speaker I am.
Right, it's always better to go natural than to recite. I feel like that's...
I mean, here,
Yeah,
you see, there's
definitely.
no scripts in front of me. You know that when we prepared for this today, it was conversational.
Yes,
That's how I'm best. And I think
I can tell.
speakers as well as writers
Yeah.
have to find themselves.
Definitely.
Find out who you are. And not everybody has the natural ability to speak impromptu.
Oh yes, it's a learned skill. And what also helps with that is table topics.
Say that again?
Table topics?
Table topics. What does that mean?
It's impromptu speaking. You go up there and they ask you a question. You have 1 to 2 minutes to answer. And I've done a couple. It really gets easier over time. My first couple, I was really nervous, but my last couple were much better just because I was used to it. So table topics really helps with impromptu speaking, and it really gets easier over time.
Yeah, just things that you may know something about. So being comfortable with what you have to say. Like when people call me and say, listen, can you do a talk on Sybil Ludington? I'm like, in a heartbeat, because I know her. You know, I worked for so long studying her that there's pretty much not anything you could say about Sybil Ludington that I can't be comfortable talking about.
Right.
With Hauntings of the Hudson River, I'm not as comfortable with talking about the paranormal. I'm better now than I used to be. But I do feel that if it's a topic I know more about, I'm comfortable with it.
Oh yes, definitely. I agree with that 100%. For my 7th speech, it was research a topic. I talked about fear of public speaking. I did a research about it, and since I knew a lot about it because I did so much research, I felt comfortable talking about it. So it really does help when you know your topic and you want to talk about it too. So definitely.
You know, it's funny. I taught for 35 years, and I met so many different teachers. There were some teachers who taught for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
30 years after their first day, they're still nervous about standing up in front of a class.
You see, I have so much admiration for you because you started out as a teacher and you said you weren't nervous. Like me, if I was a teacher, I would be terrified on my first day of school. So I don't see you have the same.
And that's when, and I could never see that. You know, to me, it's like, this is my class. So, you know, so it just never dawned on me that I should be nervous. Now, however, I did prepare for my classes, so I always wanted to be sure I knew what I was going to do. Were there times when I was uncomfortable because I wasn't sure what I was going to do for that day? Yes. So even if you are a skilled public speaker, you should know what you're talking about. I've seen great politicians do a horrible mess when it came to speaking because they didn't know what they were going to talk about. Once they got up there and they started fumbling, it got worse and worse.
Yeah, but the thing about fumbling is that even if you make a fumble, it's okay because during my 5th Toastmasters speech, I completely forgot everything that I was about to say because I was a little bit nervous, and I took a very long minute to pause, and after that, I was able to remember what I said. But the best part is that nobody laughed at me in Toastmasters because they're all very nice people, and it's a place where mistakes are allowed to be made.
So I would imagine that Toastmasters gives you tricks of the trade. What are some of the tricks of the trade?
Practice, practice, practice.
Practice.
Yes.
So that means before you do the speech, go stand in front of the mirror and deliver your speech to the mirror.
Yes.
Deliver it to a tape recorder, talk to the walls, but try to be comfortable with the material you're going to deliver so you're not going up there cold.
Exactly, practice. I always practice my speeches probably around 10 times, and it's interesting. I learned the importance of practicing from the greatest public speaker of all time, Winston Churchill.
Oh.
You know, did you know that for every minute of public speaking, he would practice 1 full hour? And I was thinking to myself, wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing because he had to deliver a whole lot of speeches.
Yeah, and did you know Churchill fainted the first time he ever gave a public speech?
Is that right?
Yes, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, that really makes me feel a lot better. You know what I mean?
Because he is. And John F. Kennedy,
oh yes,
who had his own way. You know, that's the thing, to develop a style. And this whole idea of pausing is amazing because it gives you an opportunity to think. You know, you can stop and then pick up again.
Yes.
And while you're stopping, you're actually thinking of what you're going to say next. And people don't realize that there's a little voice in your head that can keep rolling while you're talking. I could be thinking one thing and speaking another. And I do that every time I get up to speak. I sit there and I look at my audience. And if I see my audience is tuned into what I'm saying, I stay on that line. If I see that I'm losing them, and I can actually look in their faces and see what they're thinking.
I agree with that 100% because for my first couple speeches, I would go really, really fast, and people were losing interest. And afterwards, I realized the importance of taking a time to pause. And it's funny because I said the same speech with pauses, and people actually paid more attention with pauses than without pauses. So it's so important to pause and to speak slowly. And that's what Toastmasters helped me with.
And to be aware of your audience.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I was tuned in to 11 and 12-year-olds from the beginning. So I knew what they wanted to hear, and I knew that I couldn't speak in monotone. because they would come into me and they say, such and such a teacher is killing me. I can't sit there for an hour and listen to this person just drone on and on and on and on.
Oh, you got to make it interactive with.
Yeah, it has to be
12-year-olds,
interactive,
definitely. Yeah.
and you're not speaking to them, you're speaking with them.
Yes. It makes it so much easier for kids to learn that way when you're speaking to them and relating to them, and makes them so much more interesting.
Now, you mentioned note cards before. Is note cards a good thing or a bad thing?
In the beginning, I believe for someone like me, it's necessary just because I wasn't comfortable public speaking. So my first 4 speeches, I relied almost completely on note cards. And it was very helpful because after a while, I thought to myself, oh, maybe I should try it without note cards. So it's really a gradual building process. You first start out with note cards, and when you get more comfortable, the note cards goes away. So,
Yeah. So it's better not to use them because you'll rely on them and you'll keep your face buried in them and read them.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Nothing worse than sitting there having someone read to you for an hour.
Oh, yes. It's so much better if you make it more natural. And I find that when I don't use note cards, I'm able to sound more natural than when I'm reading it because it sounds like I'm reciting it when I'm reading from note cards. So
Do the number of people in the audience affect you?
Number of people. Well, Toastmasters is not that huge of an audience. There's not like 30 people. There's at the most around 20. And so doesn't really, and people there are really nice, and nobody's going to throw tomatoes at me if I make a mistake. So it's more comfortable. I feel more comfortable speaking in front of Toastmasters, and it's not such a big audience. So
if I said to you, Yanna, I need you to do a talk on Toastmasters for 500 people, would that give you a heart attack?
I've never done a speech for 500 people, so we'll have to see.
I mean, I've done 1,000.
Oh, wow.
Nice. And again, for me, what happens is anything that happens past the second row doesn't matter. Past the second row, you could put 10,000, won't matter. I don't see them anyway.
You get used to it after a while.
Yeah, you don't, and I just don't see them.
That's
because
awesome.
I'm concentrating on what I'm to do. Like right now, I don't want to make you nervous, but right now, you and I are the only things that exist. They don't exist.
Exactly.
They're out there and they may be listening, but it isn't about them.
Exactly.
It's about us.
Yeah, I'm just talking with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes it so much easier.
And that helps to be
Definitely.
absorbed in the topic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely helpful.
So your first time up there must have been a nightmare.
My first time up there, I used a lot of note cards. I talked about, the icebreaker is a speech that's a fun speech because you talk about anything you want. So I talked about my college experience. I practiced so many times. I used a lot of note cards, but since I practiced a lot, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But I definitely feel more comfortable my 10th speech than my first speech. So definitely the nerves
Yeah. Now,
get less.
you're in the writer's workshop.
Yes.
And you are a writer. You're writing a book. You share your chapters with the group.
Yes.
And I noticed that when you do that, you are not intimidated. When you're talking about your writing, you seem to be comfortable with it. You laugh in the right places. You use inflection in the right places. Tell me a little bit about that. When you're doing your book, are you comfortable?
Toastmasters has really helped me with my book because in the past, when I would read something, I'd get a little bit nervous. But when I joined Toastmasters, I became more comfortable speaking in front of an audience. And so now when I read, I feel more comfortable reading. So I don't know if you noticed the change.
You remind me, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
You remind me of, what they say, there's people who stutter.
Mm-hmm.
When they sing, they don't stutter.
Yeah.
And you do the same thing. When you're just talking, you seem a little nervous. When you're reading your book and you're talking about your own writing, you are so comfortable. And you engage the audience. And we all sit, sometimes there's as many as 25 people there. And you pick up and read, and after, when they're talking, or if you're hearing another author read, when that author is done, you make comments, and you seem comfortable enough talking with that author in front of everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
And you have come a long way. I do remember when you were a nervous wreck. You're not so much anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. So it's what you said. Practice, 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 practice.
Oh, yes, practice.
The more you do it, the better you get.
Yeah, the more comfortable you get. And it's okay to rely on note cards. If you make a mistake, no big deal. No one's laughing at you. Just go along with the flow. And eventually, it's going to be so much easier for...
So you said that there are about 10 speeches that you have to do for Toastmasters. Tell us a little bit about, I would imagine each one of those 10 varies in some way.
Yes. Number 9 is Persuade with Power. It's a fun speech. And number 7 is Research Your Topic. Number 10 is Inspire Audience. It's the longest speech. Most speeches are generally 5 to 7 minutes. And number 10 is 8 to 10 minutes. And you're not allowed to use note cards for that
8 to
one.
10 minutes is a lifetime, isn't it, when you're up there?
Actually, I enjoyed my 10th speech because it was something that I practiced a long time for, and I wanted to make it good, so I practiced a lot. I looked at myself in the mirror, and so my 10th speech, I actually felt more comfortable than my first speech because I had just so much practice, and I was able to do it without note cards, and afterwards I was like, yes, you know?
What happens after the 10 speeches? Is your time up there, or?
After the 10 speeches, you can go back to your CC, or you can move on to your advanced communication manuals. I have 2 advanced communication manuals that I'm going to work on.
Wow.
So it's the next step up.
So that means the speeches become a little more complicated?
I believe so, yes. It's more variety because the manuals I'm using, one of them is an entertaining speech, and it's more specific. So it's more advanced, yes.
Wow. Now, so Toastmasters is an international organization. So people could go online, find a local chapter, and join.
Yes. We actually have one in Putnam County. Putnam Speaks Toastmasters, 1 Fair Street, first and third Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m.
Wow. And people can join. There's no, I mean, is there like a membership fee or something? Or?
Well, you come in and see if you like it, and if you decide to join, then there is a membership fee.
Okay. So, and that just covers the cost of
you get
running the meeting.
manuals, and you get 2 manuals, and you get the chance to become a better public speaker. So it really does help.
Wow. And how often do you go? Twice a month?
Twice a month. Yep.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun.
Wow. And so you've been in it for a while now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So socially, it's a good thing too.
Definitely.
How long do the meetings last?
Generally, a little less than 2 hours.
Oh, that's good.
And they have snacks and breaks, and you could just talk with people.
Oh, so there are refreshments too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so that's a good thing.
It's definitely a good
Well,
thing.
that sounds terrific. And you've been doing better at, I mean, I could tell already. Here you are, you know, on
Thanks to
TV.
Toastmasters.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Without Toastmasters, you probably would not have been here, would you?
No, I definitely would not have been here. So Toastmasters really is very, very helpful for anyone who is nervous public speaking.
Was there any particular experience that you had that made you say, whoa, I need more practice on this?
Yes. When I gave a speech in college, I decided to wing it. That's something you should never do, wing a speech. And I looked at the audience and people were going like this, and somebody even had a hand up like this. And I was like, oh my goodness. And afterwards, my friend was like, psst, by the way, there's a little club called Toastmasters. You should definitely check it out. And that's how I learned about Toastmasters.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, this is going to make you pull back a minute, but do you know that there's times when I fight myself not to prepare for a speech, that sometimes for me, it's better if I go in cold.
That sometimes does help too,
Yeah.
for people who are good at
If I
impromptu.
go in cold, just knowing what the topic is. I mean, all you have to do is tell me what the subject is. And if I can focus on that subject, I'm fine. And I get up there and I just do what it is I have to do. And again, the more people that are there, and there's also, I get into a role. It's the same with writing. If I'm sitting in front of that computer and I get into a role, that's what I try to teach young writers. If you can train your mind to focus, there's times when I sit at that computer, 6 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm done. And 12 hours later, there I am with what I have to do.
Oh, yes.
So it is a frame of mind.
It's definitely important to focus when you're giving a public speech or anything in general. It's important to focus.
Is there anything, I've heard these little tricks of pretend the audience is in their underwear.
That never works.
That never worked for you.
Before I give a speech, I think of anything but the speech, so I'm not thinking about it. So I think about something pleasant, and
It's like an exam. You don't want to cram. If you
Exactly.
cram before the exam, your head's going to be crammed.
Exactly, and then, and so I just think of something else, and when I'm up there, I just think to myself, I've practiced so many times, I know this is a good speech, and I just go with the flow, and even if I make a mistake, it's okay. Nobody's going to laugh at me.
Yeah, that's right. And that was a very good point you brought up before. When I get up there, if I fumble, the only one who knows that I fumbled is me. They don't know what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So if I say something else, they don't know it.
Yeah. Especially with 11 to 12-year-olds, they're just like, oh.
I can't memorize. I'm not good at memorizing.
It sounds more natural when you don't memorize.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's why I'm not, I've acted in plays, not many, because I can't memorize the lines and then get up and deliver those lines. I'm much better when I'm not doing that.
Oh, yeah, it sounds more natural when you're not reading from a script and you know exactly what you're going to say. So,
well,
definitely.
Yanna, I am hoping that you have helped people who may be afraid to get in front of audiences. You are a wonderful example of overcoming the fear. You were deathly afraid to do it. You've overcome that. There are ways to do that. You mentioned Toastmasters. They meet twice a week. There is such a thing as the Putnam Toastmasters. People should look that up. I think we did put the website for Toastmasters. Join them. Join Yanna in overcoming your fears. Thank you for joining us today. There is the website. Go to it, and thank you for being with us today. Yanna, thank you so much. You did
Pleasure.
a great job.
Pleasure.
I can't believe